So in between, I did some videos on architecture and Indian philosophies, and I think maybe went a bit away from my main theme of biology. But I think it is time to return to it more so because my feet are extended under the table and have got bitten by a mosquito, which I presume is in Aedes aegypti because middle of the afternoon in Ahmedabad, I don't know what is that mosquito doing there, but it's there. It's bitten me. It's reminding me of my favorite, not favorite, but a virus which has got a very special place in my heart. So my maybe the primary interest in biology started because of actually something called Toxoplasma gondii. You can look it up. It's a wonderful parasite. It may have changed the course of history of humanity. That's another story. Then I got more interested in Plasmodium, its cousin, that is the greatest killer ever known. Just killed probably one third of all the humans that ever lived. And then slowly, it took me to know more about mosquitoes, and with mosquitoes came the arboviruses. And as I'm staying in Ahmedabad, my attention slowly got drawn to dengue virus. So there are lots of viruses which are carried by insects, and as the global warming is around the corner, and apparently things are heating up, the group that is going to get most benefited from what is happening in terms of overall change is insects. So we are going to have more and more of them, and that is why the pathogens that are carried by insects become very important to become aware of. And yes, I tried writing a lot about this, but obviously nothing like and COVID-19 had happened, and epidemic was not exactly a word that people really bothered about. But now this COVID has happened, and we are talking about epidemics, and so I have a chance to revisit. So the first piece that I ever wrote in my life, it was titled, very ambitiously because I thought it'll attract people to read it, was that HXNY is could be Afridi, but dengue is Hashim Amla. So that was a kind of swine flu season in Ahmedabad, and people were dying and things were happening. So I was keen to write that and tell my story because obviously influenza or coronavirus or these guys are when these viruses come, maybe they have a you know once in a blue moon kind of inning like Afridi, and they kind of leave a memory behind. But then there are batsmen like Hashim Amla. You don't register that he's come to the crease and he's batting, but every time he comes, he scores 50 plus almost every second inning. So, you know, you don't really understand who to fear because you're not really able to realize the potential of Hashim Amla. So, dengue is exactly that. You're talking about what 5 million cases, and everybody is up in their chair wondering what is this. These numbers are nothing when you look at a lot of other pathogens. 5 million across the world. India has 25 like 2.5 million cases of TB every year, and about 1.5 like them are drug resistant TB. And that's kind of a horror story. But if you look at dengue numbers, you would be absolutely, you'll fall off your chairs because if you do Googling, it would say 390 million. So about 40 crore people are exposed to dengue. About half a million get severe complications, and 25 to 50,000 of them die. So, looking at the mortality is not really something that scares the hell out of us. And obviously, we don't really have anybody hard selling dengue to us. But dengue is a wonderful virus because it's a grandfather in terms of ability, to end COVID for certain reasons. So there are two very key qualities which I would, point out that nCovid can enter a cell using couple of receptors where it can latch onto the host cell from outside on couple of receptors and can slowly go send the RNA inside. Dengue has multiple receptors, so it is like it has got far greater ability to enter than the human body. And what is unique about dengue is that it actually, it rights the immune system itself. So it's like a thief entering the premises, with the help of police, or rather using police. So, and that makes it a very, very difficult virus to be handled by the immune system. But even then, even we have something called adaptive immune system. Somehow we seem to be under the impression that we are some helpless ducks because of this COVID. But in reality, human beings have a wonderfully intelligent immune system. In fact, if you look at the weight of the immune system cells of human body, it is approximately same as the weight of your brain. So you have another brain, employed completely in the service of keeping you safe. But that is the kind of quantum that we have, and that is why we are very, very safe. So dengue doesn't really always overwhelm. In fact, first infection of dengue is not much of a consequence because typically it is subclinical, or you get some fever and then you get well. You don't even register it in most of the cases. But this is not the end of the story of dengue, and that is why it becomes more and more interesting to look at dengue as the time passes. So, what dengue has is something called serotypes. Now, serotypes are basically variations of the same virus, but they have some small differences. So, I would like to, kind of give an example of it in a very, very metaphorical way, that human immune system, is like a police department that has got infected by the first, one serotype of dengue. So when that happens, the immune system is now aware that the thief who is coming in is wearing a red shirt and he has got a gun in his left hand. So that is the information that the police department has, or your immune system has, in terms of antibodies. The problem is that when the second infection of dengue occurs with a different serotype, the police department knows that this is wearing red shirt, so let's apprehend it. But this time the gun is in the other hand. So even after apprehending it, the immune system cells are not able to destroy dengue virus, and it starts multiplying inside the immune system itself. So whenever you get a repeat infection of a different serotype of dengue, the probability of viremia, the extreme form of extreme multiplication of viruses, and then they are overwhelming the immune system and going all the way to the leaking of capillaries, the hemorrhagic phase, and giving you a shock syndrome, and probably even killing you, starts increasing. So the fear that we have for COVID today, that how about the reinfection? Would it would one infection save us from the next one or not? We are worried, but in dengue's case, we know as the time passes, dengue would just get worse. So as there are 4 or 5 serotypes at this point of time of this virus, and typically in a season, one serotype goes through a population. So I think if you're living in India, there's a great possibility that you may have been infected by one serotype, and you have that immunity against that. But if you get infected again in the next season, yes, some short-term immunity is available for the first infection against the other serotypes also, but over the longer period, the second infection, the third infection, the fourth infection of different serotypes, they all increase the probability of you getting the hemorrhagic syndrome, and your mortality rates would go higher. So where we stand today in India after these lockdowns is that we have locked people indoors. And this is summer, so you fine. I just got bitten by one mosquito, but you're not really getting bitten by the Aedes aegypti that are hanging around. But there is a great possibility that due to this lockdown, larger number of interactions have taken place between mosquitoes and people. And as COVID has created tremendous amount of threat, there is a lot of stress, and people are, one very direct result of a lot of stress in population is that lowering of immunity at a collective level. That means that even some population at this point of time is less immune, or immune systems are substantially compromised. So in this season, what we have a possibility of, especially in India, is that if monsoon arrives and the water arrives and the chances of mosquitoes to breed would increase, we can have a massive epidemic of dengue. Frankly speaking, dengue is virtually a pandemic because about a billion people are currently expected to be exposed or under threat, and it is recognized as that level of a threat by various medical bodies. But the public level awareness has not yet come. So I presume that I'm using this opportunity to point out that this is the scale of threat that is there around the corner because of dengue. So because the repeat infections can become more and more fatal, dengue has to be looked at as a mounting or escalating threat as far as the pandemic is concerned. But simultaneously, we have to also look at the mitigation measures. So there is one vaccine, they are not that effective. It has got a lot of problems. In fact, in some cases, it can create more complications. But just like most vaccines, dengue vaccine doesn't have that much of a potential. So we have only one handle over dengue, other than our own immunity. But our own immunity, as I said, in case of dengue, is not that much of a protection, and that is to deal with the mosquito populations. So dengue is not riding on the Anopheles, which is the was the focus over the history because of the malaria parasites riding on it. Dengue is riding on Aedes aegypti, previously more prominently by it in India, and there is another Albopictus, that is also another mosquito that can now potentially be carrying dengue in our backyards. But there is one misinformation about Aedes aegypti which I would like to correct, because that is maybe the biggest game changer information that we have, or rather we don't have. So if you look at the campaigns, obviously we are India has been conducting campaigns talking about dengue fever, etc., and idea of celebrating dry day and not allowing water to accumulate in any container, etc., etc. The problem with all these drives is that they have failed to realize the finer detail about how Aedes aegypti is actually operating. So Aedes aegypti, unlike what is popularly drafted in government communications, is not laying eggs in water. So the eggs are not in water like Anopheles or Culex. They are stuck on the side of the wall of the container. And the problem with is that they are very hardy eggs. They stick very well. They are stuck above the water line so that more water is added into the container. Only then they'll get activated. Even if they are not getting any water for almost a year, they can still be alive. And the minute more water is available, the eggs can mature and you will have the mosquitoes available. Now, just this mosquitoes lifestyle is not of the great worry, because this is compounded with what dengue does, and that is even more complicated than anything else that anybody else does. Is that the viruses like dengue, chikungunya, and Zika, they all not only infect human beings but they also infect the mosquitoes. And in case of mosquito, it is not just infecting the salivary gland so that it can come back into human body and create a havoc. It is also infecting the eggs of the mosquito. Okay, so the female is biting you, the eggs are there in the body of the female. The blood is in fact more or less required for realization of these eggs. So that's another very horrible story, that how pathogens have managed to change the behavior of an insect and made it forced it to go in close company of human and risk its life to breed. But anyway, so that dengue virus that are arrived from the blood of the human being inside the mosquito's body is also traveling to the eggs of the mosquito. So regardless of you killing the mosquito in this season, if the eggs are there, those eggs would have mosquitoes which are ready to infect. That means that that virus has traveled inside the mosquito egg, and now the new baby mosquito which will come out will be infectious from birth. So unlike malaria, when the mosquito are allowed to buy an infected person and then bite you, that is not the requirement of dengue. Dengue can have this horrible cycle of infectious babies without even biting people. So they don't. It doesn't have to wait for the next season to bite people with dengue and to restart the cycle of the epidemic. It can straight away start the dengue by biting the first person. So that is the diabolical power that dengue has. Now I'll take the last issue, which I think you may be confident about, that it's a mosquito-borne disease. How can it turn up the numbers like nCovid, or how can you have an epidemic or something like that? So let me point out that my own city of Ahmedabad had a chikungunya epidemic that nobody registered. We did not shut the shops. There was no lockdown. Nobody did anything about it. It just went through it in the population into 2006. Subsequently, some people got curious because last pages of the newspaper were full of advertisements about deaths and checked. So in that limited season, we had 60,000 cases of chikungunya in the city of Ahmedabad, and we had additionality of more than 3,000 people. That means in that season, more 3,000 more people had died than what is seasonally happening to people. So that is the power of you know arboviruses and the mosquito-driven diseases, because mosquitoes can really breed exponentially. They are insects which are thriving regardless of having a very small window to breed when the water is available naturally in the monsoon. That is the history. Today we have changed the situation and now the water is available 24/7, 365 days a year. Historically, these insects were evolved for a very short monsoon, and that is why they are able to sustain themselves with very small populations and extraordinary exponential growth in a very short time. So you have Aedes aegypti in some very unlikely places like say Alaska, or uh, the tundras where you have reindeer migrations taking place, and those reindeer migrations are taking place not because the reindeers want to move, but because of the insect bites. So in that region, there is a very short summer, just couple of weeks of water. That is enough for mosquitoes to build to the populations that look like clouds. So given an opportunity, mosquitoes can really breed. And what we have done in cities like Ahmedabad, Delhi, all of these places, that we have let loose architects and urban planners who love water without realizing that water is not something that we really need to look at to stay alive. So we have water bodies and we have water management of all kind happening across the cities. The net result is that we have tremendous opportunity for dengue to go at any scale that it wants to, because every year we are increasing the amount of people who would be exposed to dengue. That means you are kind of slowly building up the epidemic, and we are not too far from a all out epidemic in a lot of cities of India, and the stellar alignment for it is almost there, because these all lockdowns have created a situation where we could really be heading for it. So this is one virus that we really need to look out for, and obviously not the last one. I'll keep trying to make more videos about other viruses, but time for us, if you're an architect, to become aware of the importance of having or not having water. Time for us as citizens to understand how to mitigate mosquito populations, and obviously time for our administration to recognize this as a threat which is equally or bigger, having bigger impact on human populations in tropical regions. So I hope somebody wakes up to this reality and does something. Thank you.